So this is a species of tortoise that I actually don't think any of you have seen. But you'll notice that this individual's right ear is torn to shreds. It's been non-stop rain for the past 4 days, but we're making the most of it. My name is Taylor and Gert is on camera, and we are exploring the wilds of Welgevonden. Now, it's been quite tricky to navigate the reserve. Both the Tabospruit and the Sterkstroom valleys are closed, as you can imagine. The rivers are raging torrents, and the other roads are slippery slopes. But we've been lucky to find a couple of giraffe as we left 57 Waterberg this morning. Now, there are a couple more giraffe that have moved through the thicket. So I think she's just keeping an eye on them at the moment. And then the other younger giraffe have actually all taken off into the denser vegetation, maybe trying to shelter themselves with rain. Something else that's quite interesting with the giraffe at Welgevonden is most of them seem to be quite light in color. I have seen this in the Eastern Cape around Welgevonden Game Reserve, and then also when you head up into Tanzania, specifically Ruaha National Park, it's just incredible to see it. You know, you'd almost want to say they're leucistic, but they're not at all. So colorations of animals really do vary depending on their geographic location. And if this is a gene, a lighter gene that is being consistently passed on within this area, well, you're going to see it repeated quite a bit. So I'm definitely going to jump on and get hold of some of the research team, and I'm going to find out where the giraffe have actually come from. Maybe that will give us some better insight as to why they're so much lighter in color. Finally, a moment that Gert and I can head out and traverse the wonderful reserve that is Welgevonden. Although lots of treacherous, slippery slopes to navigate, but we're going to try and avoid them as much as we can. Now, if you're wondering how on earth do these animals stay warm and deal with the conditions of torrential downpours days and days. Now, we cover ourselves with rain jackets, hide under our duvets, or even just stand under a roof. Wildebeest and other animals out here don't have that luxury. So the wildebeest will sit down out in the open on some occasions. Otherwise, what they will also do is use the vegetation in their favor. So depending on which way the wind is blowing, that's going to determine the rain direction, and the wildebeest will stand on the opposite side. The same thing goes for impala, rhinos, and of course I've seen elephants and many more other animals doing it. So this is a species of tortoise that I actually don't think any of you have seen. Even some of you have been watching WildEarth for years and years. It's called a macro-hinged tortoise, but there have been a variety of names before it. It was also known as the Bell's hinged tortoise and the Lobatse hinged tortoise. And it looks very much like the Specs hinged tortoise, which we typically see everywhere in the lowveld. We're driving down the road and a little bee-eater swooped right past the car. So I slammed on brakes, hoping that it would land on a bit of vegetation close by. And it did. It's not really doing too much, sort of just sitting on a branch at the moment. And it's very fluffed up. And one thing that I've noticed is there's a fair amount of white on this little bee-eater, which makes me think that perhaps it is a juvenile. So this is the time of the year that they do breed. Most of them would have already bred already, and their youngsters would have fledged, which is so special to see. I've come across a rather interesting scene. Not a great one, especially for the zebra, but you'll notice that this individual's right ear is torn to shreds, and it almost looks like it has a black eye. From my experiences, when I see injuries on zebras, it's almost always from fighting with one another. Of course, you can see scratches and bite marks from big predators like lions, but this individual doesn't have any other markings around it. And because it is a stallion, it's more susceptible to fighting with other zebras. Now, it doesn't look great. It's quite swollen and it's torn, and it's swishing its tail and shaking its head quite a bit. So the flies must be frustrating the zebra so much. But it's really just a superficial wound. I had a look towards the inside of its ear, and it doesn't look like there's too much damage. It looks like it's just on the outer ear, so that's good. So once it eventually heals up, it might not ever stand up again, but it will be a fur away. It's just remarkable how these animals heal without us even intervening.
What a perfect way to end a sunset safari. It couldn't have been more beautiful, to be quite frank. In Welgevonden, we look forward to seeing what you have to offer us tomorrow morning.